With the F1 2025 season just around the corner, I decided to get a lot of information from a well known F1 source. And remember, liketh and subscribeth. Wanted to try to segue into F1, but I think this will probably ruin your fun. Uh, what do you think about 2026? They have talked about bringing in a new F1 car.
So the new F1 car, it's probably a good place to start in terms of, I guess, because it's the overhanging. Is it the expression Damocles over the season? Because this is ultimately the last season of these current regulations. Are you watching? I just got to
Yeah,
quickly
I'm
pick.
watching yours now.
I'm gonna pick a team. I got my idea. So we're playing 2005 for
Mhm.
two reasons. One, because it's 20 years, and that's like, yeah, niche. The other PlayStation game that came out for F1 was F106. Now, the most popular edition of F106 is the Championship Edition, which is a launch title for PS3. So I guess people maybe associate more with that. I'm going to choose a team and track that isn't on the calendar anymore. So I'm going to use a Toyotas, which pulled out of F1 at the end of 2009. I'm going to go to Indianapolis because I love Indianapolis. If I'm honest, do medium. I'll do 10%, and we'll do a grid start. Actually, I'll I do an instant. One of the fun things I loved about this game was instant races. So you can basically set up the grid any way you want. So we're going to have some fun, and we're going to set it up with the slow drivers at the front and the fast drivers at the back. Now, yeah, so that's why I chose F105 rather than '06 because it also kind of marked. Uh, F106 was like the first year of the V8 engines. So like 2005 was kind of the end of an era, which I kind of feel like is what 2025 is because
Mhm.
it's the last year of this current reg set, not just in terms of the engines, which are changing slightly for 26, but the cars are changing quite a lot too. There's active aero is kind of coming into effect in 2026. So the chassis are changing dramatically to accommodate that. There's the engines are changing. There's a bit more focus on electrification. They're removing some elements of the current power unit. So it's kind of this year's cars, these 2025 cars, the kind of the end of their. It is the end of an era, which is why I thought 2005 would be a good one to do. And that's kind of why you could kind of divide the season in between the teams that are focusing already on 2026 and aren't going to give too much of a priority on 2025 versus the teams that actually have a title to fight for, and that's because of the continuation of the regulations. They're very stable. The regulations are basically the same this year as they are last year, which isn't always the case in
Mhm.
F1. F1's constantly evolving and changing. The dynamics are being constantly pushed. We're going to go with this.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that you can change the who's gonna be in what position too.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a. I just want to try to see if I can change the audio because it's loud as shit. Um,
For me, for some reason, I can't record the audio of the game,
oh, perfect.
so I'll
We'll blow
just
your ears off then.
yeah, I'll just play some music from my bestest pal. I have a person that I commissioned some music from, so I'll
Sweet.
have that in the background.
You won't hear the sound of V10 engines blowing your ears off because these things are
I
loud
can.
as shit. Oh, you can. Excellent. Um, by the way, very quickly, it's. Oops. Oh dear. This is bizarre. X is to accelerate and square
Yeah,
is to
same.
brake.
Yep,
But it's
yep.
so sudden. I'm
That's how it was with the NASCAR game too, and so I was like,
very. It makes it difficult to be smooth. You can
you
change it to the analogs, but well, this is more fun, right?
yeah, you have you like playing in the first person view?
Yes, I've cockpit. Yeah, See, I can chase cam. I was I don't know what the button is. Chase cam I like for like something like Need for Speed, but for something like F1 or Gran Turismo or something, I do love the oh shit, really? I do love the active penalties. I do love the cockpit view. It's just a pure view. It's just my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, the onboard view is just my favorite.
When actually that NASCAR Thunder game I used to play all the time, and my dad bought me and himself like the controller, the steering wheel
Oh
for
yeah,
PlayStation 2. So that was one of the
wow.
coolest things as a kid.
There's an option to connect the wheel to this. I have a,
Yeah.
I use a racing wheel for other stuff now on PlayStation 5, but for PS2, I just imagine that's unfathomable.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love the sense of speed that you like this game. It's one
Yeah,
of the,
that made it look like you were going a million miles per hour.
it's kind of the reason why these games are kind of revered almost in the F1 community compared to what they currently are, which is a hunk of shite, which is what they're viewed as. Uh, anyway, as I was saying before, like the season's kind of divided between those who are kind of already prioritizing development on 2026 because there's such a huge
Yeah,
overhaul
yeah.
in regulations. It provides an opportunity for teams to kind of because it in effect, like in F1, you only really have four. Sometimes there's only one or two teams that are going to be competing at the front. Other years it's a bit more open. Last year was one of the most open years we've had for a long time, where four teams, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes, all had all had chances to win races, which is you know, in a good season, three teams would be in the mix to win races. Four
Hmm.
is a different story entirely. And kind of one of the stories of last season was how because Red Bull dominated 2023 and they started off 2024 in such a similar fashion, but the story ended up being they were very much kind of pegged back by the rest of the field by Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes in some cases too. So we kind of have this unprecedented situation where heading into the season, depending on who has a good winter in terms of their development, any one of those four teams has a chance to go for the title this year. Because last year, Verstappen had kind of once he kind of established a lead, he was able to kind of just hold off any advances that were made by Lando Norris and McLaren. So
Hmm.
the rest of the teams outside of those top four, they're kind of mostly going to be prioritizing on 2026.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it kind of divides the field up into two in that sense. And there's always an inherent divide between the teams anyway, because unlike NASCAR or Indy, it's not a single make series. Every
Yeah.
most pieces are made by the F1 teams and integrated and built by the F1 teams themselves. So there is typically a right and wrong way of doing it, and some teams do an inherently better job than others, and have their systems are set up better for the top teams that have had more budget and infrastructure established than the lower teams. So a team like, say, Haas, for instance, they're not going to have the same competitive chance or advantage that someone like Ferrari would have because they don't have the same
Yeah.
budget, they don't have the same infrastructure in place.
Is it
I don't know if this.
is that the same Haas in NASCAR as well?
So now, I know it's a Gene Haas in Stewart for Stuart Haas as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gene Haas is the owner of Haas F1.
Oh, okay. And so, yeah, because Stuart Haas is now just Haas again in NASCAR
Hmm.
as of next year. Because Stuart, when the charters happened, completely dipped out. Like
Oh
he was
damn!
just like, I don't want to sign this thing, and I'm no longer interested in this sport.
Well, so Gene that must be a big blow for Gene because Gene famously hates spending money.
Hmm.
So that must be a bummer for him. But Gene's lucky because in this era of F1 since 2021, there's a cost cap in place. I don't know if it's the same for IndyCar.
Oh, really?
Mm. There's a limit on how much money teams can spend. This is gonna be fun, by the way. This is an interactive pit stop.
Oh
Let's see
no!
if we get the buttons right.
Oh no! That sounds
So,
terrifying.
oh, it's brilliant. Right, here we go. So refueling is still allowed in F1 at this time.
You got-
Oh, that's right. Oh, for 2005, there was no tire changes. They made for 1 year. There was no. You had
Oh.
the tires you started the race. You had to finish the race on. So it was just a fuel change.
Oh.
It was basically a move that was kind of made to help cripple Ferrari, because heading into 2005, like Schumacher had won 5 titles on the bounce, and Ferrari were absolutely dominant in 2004. So yeah, kind of the FIA and F1 tried their best to try and make it a bit more even, and they worked because Ferrari were a non-factor really in safe with one race. At this very track in 2005, there was in F1 at the time there was 2 different tire suppliers, Bridgestone and Michelin. For this particular race at Indianapolis in 2005, the track and Indy had been resurfaced. Oh, holy shit! Had been resurfaced, and it was like this kind of diamond cut kind of surface.
Mhm.
And the tire that Michelin had brought couldn't sustain the loads of the final banking.
Oh.
This banking here, and so they would have to have pitted like after only a few laps. And because there was no compromise that could be agreed on, like to add a chicane here instead, basically all the Michelin, which is basically all but 6 cars, had to withdraw from the race, and
Oh,
the
man.
Bridgestone cars, which is Ferrari, Jordan, and Minardi, only those 6 cars contested the race, and it was an absolute farce. So
Yeah.
it was a hugely controversial moment for F1 in the US, which was still trying to get a foothold in.
Mhm.
It has a much stronger foothold in now, thanks to the Drive to Survive Netflix series.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
time, it was such a massive blow, and F1 only came back for 2 more years in Indianapolis before disappearing off from America until 2012.
I'm trying to remember what race it was, but in 2024 there was a race in NASCAR that we had a very similar thing, but it was
Really?
just all of the tire, like we only have one tire person, but
Hmm.
like the tire compound that they used, they had to actually give them an extra set of tires, and so teams were scrambling to grab another set of tires, and they had to like work that into their systems of how they were going to win that race, is like what compounds they were going to use. And then they were just like, this worked out so well, we'll just do it again and use the same compound. And
Hmm.
then when they came back, it just didn't work the same. It just worked like a normal track.
Oh, wow.
So we had a weird like tire gate as well.
It was massive at the time for F1, this whole tire, because obviously no one wants to see a
Yeah.
6 car. Like I joked earlier, like, a 3-car race sounds bizarre, but like, for an F1, like a 6-car race is like, that is the worst case scenario.
Yeah. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Why are you still here? Bye bye.